A rare meeting between family members from North and South Korea who haven't seen one another for over 60 years. I'm Deborah Kahn. Joining me now is Alastair, Gale, Seoul Bureau Chief. Okay, Alastair, obviously an emotional time for these families to be reunited after so many years. North Korea has said it was going to do this type of reunion in the past, but hasn't followed through. Why this time around?
That's right, Deborah. Well, this has actually been going on for many years. Since around 1985, these reunions have been taking place. But what happened was that in 2010, there was an attack by North Korea on South Korea on an island in the Yellow Sea that killed 4 people, and South Korea stopped these reunions. Now, what's happened is both sides have been talking about restarting them since last year. There was an agreement last September to do this that was cancelled at the last minute by North Korea. Then going into this year, both sides have been talking about it again. South Korean President Park Geun-hye has said it's something that should be done for humanitarian reasons. North Korea has been giving mixed signals about going ahead with this, but what happened was that last week they agreed that this would proceed. So what we're seeing is the first meeting of these families who were divided by the Korean War, or in some cases following the Korean War, and that's happening over 6 days in North Korea.
Okay, so obviously North Korea is not exactly a predictable government, but should we take this as a positive sign that North Korea has allowed these reunions to go forward?
Well, we have to be careful with North Korea. We don't want to read too much into this, but it is interesting that North Korea has agreed to let these reunions happen at the same time that military drills are about to start in South Korea between the South Korean and US forces. Now, North Korea strongly objects to these drills, and it's tried to link the reunions to the drills in discussions with the South over the last few months, but they've dropped that objection now. So it's interesting that North Korea seems to be giving some ground on this. Normally they don't do anything unless there's some kind of payoff for them. So it's certainly a positive sign that they're prepared to let this happen despite their objections to the drills. And it does seem to indicate that there is some kind of warming of ties between the two Koreas. But as we've seen in the past, these things can turn around very quickly. So we shouldn't read too much into this, but it's certainly encouraging that North Korea is letting this go ahead.
Okay, and one does have to wonder about really the psychological impact of these type of visits between family members who haven't seen each other in decades. One side, of course, being more fortunate in what they have versus the North Koreans who, have had lives that really don't compare. Any insight into, from past visits, whether or not these visits actually help relations in the end?
I don't think we can say that they help state-to-state relations. I mean, as you say, this is a situation where you have relatively affluent Southerners meeting their northern family members, and that presents a bit of a risk to the North because you have, we saw some of the footage from the meetings that are going on now of there's one old lady who's in a fur coat, and that's not the sort of thing that average North Koreans have. So, the North Koreans widely believed to carefully pick who they allow to come to these meetings. We have slightly strange situations where the North Koreans who are at the meetings will parrot some of the state propaganda to their family members in the South. So they've clearly been briefed about what they can and cannot say. So North Korea appears to be taking the risk out of this situation, of any kind of destabilizing influence when these people return to their communities. And also on the South side, the Southern families will bring up gifts for their northern the people from their families that live in the North, but there are restrictions on what they can give them. They can't give them anything of any real great value. So, this is carefully stage managed by both sides, and it's really just something to try and, alleviate some of the suffering of these people, give them a chance to talk to family members who they haven't seen for decades and probably will never see again.
Okay, thanks very much, Seoul Bureau Chief Alastair Gale.